Paul from Alexandria Knife Sharpening and Laser Engraving. Today, I'm going to show you how I'm going to restore and sharpen this beautiful set of Laguiole steak knives that come from France. You will see some knockoffs of these. There are some that aren't actually made in France that are knockoffs, but this to me, I believe, is a real set from France. They came in the box. They're marked France. They got the certificate inside of authenticity. And these are quite honestly one of the very nicest sets that I have ever seen. It looks like they've been in this box for quite some time. We have some patina forming up here, but they want to use these. So we're going to be cleaning off that patina. Sometimes, if it's an antique, especially when you're dealing with brass, you have to be careful with this green patina that forms. You can easily clean it off, but if you get too much of it, some people will tell you like, oh, don't clean it off. It kills the value of it. But I believe when something's being used, to eat with, and they want to use this set, I don't know the entire story behind it, but you can tell it is literally a beautiful set of steak knives. Here's the iconic. Now, there's debate about this too. Some people say this is a bee. Some people call it a fly. It looks to me more like a fly, but my understanding is there's a little bit of myth behind this too. That's something that they say. I believe the myth is that Napoleon granted blacksmiths the right to use that little symbol, and it was kind of like a branding mark that he had approved. But, whether that's 100% true, it doesn't seem to be entirely clear. But these are beautiful steak knives. They come from France. You will see knockoffs from Spain and other places. But this, to me, is quite honestly, it's the nicest set of them that I've ever seen come in. Usually they're all one color. These ones are wood. They have brass. Everything. They have like markings down the spine. It's a really beautiful set. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to clean these up, how I'm going to sharpen them, and then we'll go from there. Basically just a quick overall, like, this is what we can do quickly to make these look great, make them usable again. They are dull, very, very dull, and we will sharpen these. And the angle is going to be probably significantly higher than I would do a lot of steak knives at. The one reason why also is because you can see these have a very mirrored finish. I don't want to cut into that mirrored finish. I want to have a nice strong edge that's going to keep these sharp for a long time, that will cut steak well. So it might even end up being around 20 degrees. I'm probably going to do the Sharpie trick on here and to get an idea, but you can see these they've always have like really tiny little bevels on them. And a lot of times that's a pretty good indication too of the angle size on here. These are so dull that I couldn't put this under my laser gonometer and get a good reading. It's going to be all blurry. So I'm just going to go with, what I know to be fact with these, which is generally it's somewhere in that 20 and even can be higher, like 20, 25 degree range. And let's get started. Let's get these cleaned up and make these look absolutely gorgeous. So the first thing I'm going to grab that's a little different than normally what I will grab, you often see me go to radial discs, but what I'm going to grab for these are these little Scotch-Brite wheels. And these come in different grit sizes. This is the most aggressive. This tan is 120. We're not going to use this one. We're actually going to start with the red. This is about 180. And then we have, I believe this is 320 and 400. Let me double check that. Yeah, that's correct. 320. And then we go up to 400 here. And this is the most aggressive. I always try and be a little careful with these. I have found this 180 is a really nice spot for taking off the green patina that you see form on brass. And also the green is another spot where you could go if you don't want to go too hard at it. But generally, I'm going to start with this 180 and I'll show you how well this works. We got quite a bit of patina built up in here, way too much. You know, if this stays on there for too long, it will eventually damage the metal. And it's one of those weird things. So patina is a thing where it can protect stuff, but if you get far too much of it, it will actually also damage it. And this has far too much patina on there. And we want it completely off, because we're going to kind of restore these and make these look good. But what I love about these, if I was to use like my typical, a lot of times I'll just grab like a 220 radial disc. And remember, all abrasives, even though they might have the same kind of grit number, they don't all react the same. I find these to be a lot softer than the radial disc. The radial disc can actually remove some wood, and I don't really want to do anything to this wood other than I'm going to polish it. I want to just knock off all this green. And I'm afraid if I use the radial disc on there, a lot of times it'll start to embed it into the wood. And let me just show you how well this works. And I am very lightly touching that, but you'll see how it didn't mess with the wood at all. We didn't remove any of the finish. It didn't, it just kind of polished it up a little bit. It's a very gentle way of getting off patina without being overly aggressive. And I can touch all the brass with this. But I like to start with this, and you'll see we have a little bit of ring of patina up here where the wood and the brass are meeting. And don't worry about any little lines you're going to see in the brass. They're going to come out anyway. Brass is super easy to polish and shine. And if you were ever in the military or the Navy like I was, we know all about polishing brass. My God, the amount of brass I polished when I was in the service is unbelievable. They used to make us polish it every day. My division was in charge of the admiral's quarters. We had an admiral on board my aircraft carrier, and we would get sent up there to clean the space all the time, and we were expected to polish that brass every day. I mean, it was amazing there was anything left of it with as much brasso and how often it got polished all the time. You'd think after years there wouldn't be anything left to it, but that stuff got polished literally every day. You can just see there, it's just doing a really great job of just removing that heavy patina without doing anything to the wood. It didn't remove any of the wood. It just cleaned it up really nice. And those are great, and this is definitely one of those few times where I so often go to something like this, but I guarantee this would remove some of that wood. And I don't want to do that. Now, the next part is just polishing this brass up and making that look good, and very easy to do that as well. And we're going to just come over here to our regular buff. This is a medium buff. Now this will also get dirty, so you may have to clean it some. When you're doing brass, it loves to make stuff turn black. It will get black before it like cleans up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the wood first before I start doing any of the brass, because I don't want to get that black on the wood. I can get it off real easily, but I'm going to do the wood intentionally first. And if you don't have one, you do want to get a rake for your buffers. I am raking them fairly regularly to keep them clean, or when they start to get a lot of dirt buildup on them. They are absolutely worth having. The only downside to the rake is they do make a bit of mess. So I'm just going to turn on my air system here for a second. and do a little raking here. See all the black coming off. You can see that throws stuff all over the place, but what it does is it cleans that buff off pretty good. You know, like I said, doing the brass is gonna, I should have moved my little mandrels out of the way because that stuff's gonna stick all to that. But you can see now that's nice and clean. And now I can come in here, add a little wood polish to it. And let's start polishing up this wood. And look at that shining up already. I mean, it literally just takes seconds to do. And see the buff getting dirty? You're going to start seeing that black get on there. Even just from these little pieces of brass there. Also doesn't hurt to have a rag around. I'm going to grab one real quick just to give a little bit of wiping. So while it's still warm and coming off the buffer, it's not a bad idea sometimes to wipe, and you'll get some of that compound off easier than if you let everything kind of cool down. You can see there's the still getting some of that green off. Look how great the handles look. Now watch how easy this brass is to clean up. All right. I'm going to grab a different bar. I'm going to go with the white. It's a little drier. See the black? Look at my buff. I'm going to hit that iconic fly or bee. I think it's probably meant to be a bee, but tons of people call it a fly because it really does look like a fly. There's some scratches in this one. I don't know where those came from. These have been used. It looks like someone else might have tried to sharpen a few of these, because there was one of the other knives had some scratches in the same spot. I'll see if I can get that out for them. It's only on the one side. But see how my buff's getting dirtier and dirtier as it removes that patina? And I'm just going to keep cleaning right where the wood meets the brass there, because I don't want it to darken that wood and embed itself into that wood when there's that much patina on there. And that can happen. The other hard spot to hit on this, where I might use a radial disc, is right under the fly, this bottom part of this fly's wings. This is where having a Dremel tool can be very helpful. I have a couple real tiny Dremels, like this one. And this is a 1 micron little baby radial disc. And what I'll do is I'll get in here with this. And you see that? Not sure if that's showing, but it's doing a nice job of polishing and knocking the dirt and patina off of the underside of that little fly icon there. I want to see if we can get these scratches out of here that were put in here by somebody else who probably tried to sharpen these at one point. I'm going to go both directions with this. You need to get scratches out of something mirrored. A lot of times you have to go both directions. Look a lot better. You can still see them, but you still got to buff it. The buffer's the only thing that's going to really totally take that out if we're going to get that all the way out. I always kind of tell you guys this. I always like to, especially something like this, I want to do my cleanup first. Especially something with all these little kind of areas that I got to kind of get into. This little piece of brass here had a lot of scratches on the one side. Yeah, still some there, but already you can see how much better that looks already. And I mean, just in general, it's looking great. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this before it goes back. But let's move on to just some of the sharpening, because I don't think you got to sit here and just watch me buff up and clean every one of these. But look at the difference. I mean, they're going to look just incredible. So let's talk about now the sharpening of this. After we've got it looking great, how do we want to do it? Well, for me, I'm going to do this on my Tormex. All right, so let's mix up our Tormex solution. And just a reminder, I've seen people make this mistake before. Tormex solution is 250 milliliters of water. So I'm going to pour in 250 milliliters of water, and it's 10 milliliters of solution, which is not a ton. You can see the bottle's got all these little 10 milliliter marks on it. I got my 250, then I just simply take this and I'm going to pour in 10 milliliters. So what I normally do is I see where the next one is and I just kind of pour it in and then keep checking to see when I've used a full 10 milliliters. And that looks good to me. Now, do not use the watermark on the trough. Keep in mind, that is made for the regular Tormex stone. And if you use that, you're going to way over dilute your Tormex solution. So if you fill this all the way up and to where it's marked for water and then put your 10 milliliters in, you're going to have a very diluted solution for grinding in. All right. So this one's good to go. And I just need to fill my other two machines because I'm doing all three of them today. And we are going to be grinding wet for a while. It's what we decided to do. After cleaning the shop the other day, I came across that I had 4 bottles of Tormex solution. I said, you know what? Let's not let this go to waste. We need to start using this, and let's put a little time on our Tormex diamond wheels, which also I don't think is ever a bad idea. And we are gonna give our CBN wheels a little bit of a rest, and we're gonna be doing all grinding on the Tormex. Now, they also, I haven't done it yet, but I'm probably gonna print it later today. They did make a new part for preserving your water, and it's just a little 3D printed part. I've been meaning to do it. I was hoping to get to it yesterday, and I didn't. Got to make sure there's enough space here between my machines. There we go. So that's good. And just one more of these to do, and then I'll have my solution. And you can use this solution for a while. Don't throw it out every day. If you got a week's worth of grinding, and what I do is I actually made some things with my laser engravers. I cut some acrylic out, and at nighttime I have a little piece that I put over top of this to keep it from evaporating. And you can add, if you start seeing a little bit of evaporation, you can add water to it if you get a little water evaporation, because my understanding is that the solution still stays in there. It's not going to evaporate into the air, and you can just add a little water to it. But I have ground for quite a bit of time using a Tormex solution. So don't throw it out right away. Wait till it's, completely filled with stuff. And then what I have even filtered it through a coffee filter, because it's not inexpensive stuff. All right, we're good to go. We got all these filled. We're good. Everybody looks good. So let's get to sharpening. Okay, and as I've shown before, when you have a curved blade, if you had a straight line from your tip to your heel, you want that same angle. If you were to take a straight line from there and then bring it back to your jig, it should somewhat line up with your jig. And you can just eyeball it. You don't have to, get crazy about it. I just eyeball it. I visualize that imaginary line, and then if I brought it straight back to the jig, and that's usually all you need to do. Make sure you're clamped in good and tight, especially on a mirrored blade. This shouldn't scratch it, but you definitely, if it was to move or not be tight enough, you could scratch it. We don't want to do that. And then, as I mentioned before, I'm just going to do the Sharpie method. I will use my Tormex angle setter to make sure everything is correct. Or when I definitely know I have a specific angle that I want to hit, I suspect these should be around 20. That's what I've been able to find on the internet. I've seen some people even said 25 and higher. I don't want to go higher than, for me, I don't want to go higher than 20. I think that's plenty. But I also want to see how that looks on here, see if it kind of matches the already existing bevel. And I'm just lowering this to make sure that I can get the proper measurement here. It had last been used on, as you can tell, on a much bigger knife. And that looks good. So let's see where we're almost right at 20. Just need a tiny little adjustment. Okay. So now I'm going to check this, though, before I get to grinding and see where that's removing. And that looks perfect to me. See if you guys can see this here. Let's see if we can zoom in there. It's hitting at the very top of the existing bevel there. Now, like I said, these are so dull. It wouldn't be any sense of like using laser goniometer because if you have a super dull blade, it's just going to be like a blurry line of light. You can sometimes tell from the range of the light, but it's just not super helpful when you have something that's incredibly dull. And these have not been sharpened in a long time. They are very dull. And yeah, some wet grinding. It's been a while since we've done this. And remember, we're pulling out. I'm going towards the camera, towards you guys right here. Yeah, and that looks great, but no burr yet. This is 250 grit. And that's about 10, and I'm starting to feel a burr. And it's fairly even. I am noticing it needs a little bit more work back here in the heel. Just a little bit. And the tip, as always, looks a little fat to me. All right, we're going to go to the other side. And I like everything I'm seeing here. Everything looks good. We got a nice bevel. We evened each side out. It removed all our Sharpie. I see a tiny bit of Sharpie up in that tip, but we're going to do a little more tip work on that. But I don't want to remove any more metal than necessary. We're now going to go to our 600 grit, our next wheel over. Now these are Tormek wheels, so I bet they're exactly spot on the same. I'm going to check. And it is. It's spot on. Need a little more space between these two. There we go. All right. Let me get a little more light on here for you. And for me. Okay, so I'm going to do a little more tip work on this. Yeah, it feels good. Now on steak knives, I do like them to have a little bit of what some people like to refer to as like a toothy edge. So 600 is a great place to stop. On these, I'm just going to go for a couple of light strokes at 1200. Not a whole lot, because I don't want to have them be too high of a grit. I want them to have a little bit of grab to them. This is just really light. Probably like 3 strokes each side, and then I'll call it quits. Plus, it's going to restore some of that little bit of mirroring, because these are very mirrored edges. Okay. And here is our Slippin' full size 250 millimeter hone, which is really nice. And this I do need my angle setter for, because the front vertical base is a different setup here than the other side. It's not exact match. So you do need to always set this. And I'm going to go like a tiny bit higher, like 20 and a quarter, just a little tiny bit higher on the honing. And I mentioned this the other day, and I'll bring it up again. if you're doing a lot of your work on 1x30s, or if you're honing on a 1x30, it goes a lot faster. And one of the things that happened to me when I first started Tormex sharpening was I wasn't spending quite enough time honing. It takes longer because it's going a lot slower. We're talking 90 RPMs as opposed to on a 1x30 where you're probably going around 1700, or on my flat or my round leather hone that I have on a variable speed grinder over here. Even on slow, that is also going around 1700 RPMs, which is pretty darn slow. Oh yeah, it feels great. Just do a quick cut test. Be sure I like the way it's cutting and feeling. Yeah, beautiful. Push cutting, cutting at every level of that knife. And this is done. And there we go. One beautifully restored, resharpened steak knife from France.